All right. Welcome back to yet another edition of Pro Wrestling Cast, your weekly webcast for your wrestling fans, whether you're a new wrestling fan or an old school smart mark. We welcome you with open arms. My name is Aljon Go, lifelong wrestling fan for life. And we are here joined, as always, by our smart mark, our wrestling historian, the heel commentator himself, Mr. Stephen Anthony. How are you, sir?
I'm having a great time. I'm not upset about anything like I have been with wrestling lately, so nothing too awful's happened lately.
Do you think we get a lot of flack from listeners and feedback from even from your friends that listen to the show? Are we too harsh on the product? Are we not harsh enough?
I watch a lot of different wrestling, so I watch a lot more than just WWE, and maybe that's what it is, because I don't, if they're not having a really good show, I just watch something else. Maybe I have a higher standard. The first thing I watched every week was Mid-South Wrestling with Bill Watts, and that show was 1 hour. It was awesome. It looked real. It was logical. They didn't even have a big roster. So that's what I grew up on. Or the Four Horsemen with Dusty was happening. Or Hulk Hogan, if it was that, was feuding with like Paul Orndorff. So I have a high standard, It needs to be really damn good. It can't just be a good work rate. It has to be well wrestled, I agree. And I don't really like when big stars say a bunch of racist stuff too.
Oh God.
That's kind of another thing.
And that's something we can get into. Just, before we get into the housekeeping and our main topic and some of the news of the week, let me just say this. Last week's episode was very thought-provoking, and I think there is a difference between a racially charged angle, a storyline, versus and characters that are representative of a particular nationality or something like that, or what's based on a particular stereotype. I mean, that's one thing my wife said. She said, Aljon, a lot of what you're talking about is stereotypes, not necessarily, racism, but, so the lines are blurred. It could be very easily blurred. And the fact of the matter is that if it's on TV, it's really all under the guise of entertainment, or at least in the attempt of trying to entertain people. And, whether it's an out of touch Vince McMahon, whether it is Triple H versus Booker T, whether it's this, that, and the other, it's all done so that, and they're doing the very best they can to make you tune in every single week. Is it always politically correct? No. And I don't believe it should be. I don't believe it should be politically correct, but I'm one of those people that like shows like All in the Family and Family Guy and anything else that has family. Mama's what was that Vicki Lawrence show that I like so much?
Mama's House?
Mama's Family. Any family show.
Talking about
little Mama's Hose. I don't know.
But, Mama's Hose. Yeah, that was a bad show.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, Vicki Lawrence is awesome in that. But it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is it's all done trying to be entertaining. Sometimes people hit, sometimes people miss.
Well, look,
and it's a lot different than what someone will say behind closed doors. So
look, if my man Larry Frank or Anthony Reyes or Bobby Bean or Too Cold Scotty Walker or any of my friends say that some shit's racist on TV that makes them feel whatever, then I'm probably going to say the same thing. That's where I base a lot of my opinion off of. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he said, I thought a really racist thing was that they called a guy Farouk Assad. And I said, well, that could definitely be a name of a guy in the Nation of Islam, but he just still fought. So you really never know how anything is going to affect someone. I just don't want an 8-year-old kid who's a big fan of John Cena to watch something like maybe Crime Time and think, gee, is that how people think of me? I don't like that. You're right. And none of those racially charged things never got over very good. So was really the point. It's like, why go there?
Larry Frank, who follows us on Facebook, says free Hulk Hogan. And it's funny that comment was made because
Larry's crazy.
I don't know if he meant that as a rib, or if he was just joking, if he's being sarcastic, or if he's being truthful. And the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people that still support Hulk Hogan as an individual. In fact, Chris Jericho on his podcast this week said something like, "People make mistakes. He's always treated me well. However, that's all
Larry
he can
Frank?
say on it." What's that?
You know Larry Frank?
Larry Frank follows our show on Facebook.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Well, there you go. There
Well,
you
I've
go.
been friends with
So,
Larry since we were 5, believe it or not.
well,
These
you
were our
see, and
oldest
yeah,
friends.
and once again, maybe we can ask Larry, what does he mean by free Hulk Hogan? Was he joking or was he legit? So, if you're listening,
If you want Larry to call in, if you want Larry to call in,
I'd love Larry to call in at some point. Yes, call
Larry
in, Mr.
and I
Larry.
talked wrestling. I remember us talking about stuff in 87, 88, 92, 93. I mean, he was watching when I wasn't, because I was like, what's been going on? He's like, oh, they got this new wrestler named Papa Shango, and he's feuding with the Ultimate Warrior. Like, I didn't even know that was going on because I'd stopped watching. But yeah, I remember he did say that, but I don't know if he. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. And once again, you can still chime in as well. Once again, this is Pro Wrestling Cast, your live and uncensored wrestling webcast / podcast. We are streaming live using Google Plus onto YouTube. You can find us on iTunes, and you can always spread the word about us. Social media, P Wrestling Cast on Twitter and Pro Wrestling Cast on Facebook, like Mr. Frank did when he wrote his post. We do have some wrestling news we're going to talk about briefly. We also have got our topic of the week. Now, this is something we've been putting back for the last couple of weeks and pushing back. It is the top 5 wrestling angles of the modern era. And we will talk about our criteria and talk about some things. It's really, really difficult, Stephen, you and I talking about what would make the cut for our top 5. Usually people do top 10 lists. We just wanted to truncate it, do top 5. I found it extremely difficult. How did you feel about this topic?
Truncate. There's so many great angles that I really like. I guess it was really hard to do. Yeah. Because, I love wrestling, and what I love about wrestling is great angles,
Yeah, that's what keeps us hooked every single week.
And sometimes,
so we're going to go ahead.
Sometimes a silly angle can really have me hooked, like, like Jake the Snake in Ultimate Warrior. That's really stupid and dumb, but it's pretty fun to watch. It's like, it's just silly, and the Cobra's here, and that sometimes is fun to do too. I wouldn't call that a great angle. That actually didn't lead to anything because of people quitting, but something like that is just silly and fun.
Right. Well, we're going to expound on that here in the second portion of the show. And once again, we welcome you to chime in with any of your comments as well using social media or the Pro Wrestling Cast hotline. So stand by for that. Let's get into some housekeeping here. Once again, Pro Wrestling Cast is brought to you live for free every single week. And you can find archives of the show right there at the homepage, prowrestlingcast.com. There you can shop for everything you could ever want and need using our Amazon link. So I will definitely say, check it out. Click that banner. Give us some credit. It doesn't cost you any more money. You'll still get the great service that you would get if you were buying with Amazon. But Amazon would just kick back a little bit of some dollars to help keep our show for free every single week. In fact, one of my favorite items, an item that I hope will appear here for Christmas, would be a WCW World Championship replica title belt. The World Wrestling WCW Heavyweight Championship of the World. That replica belt, that would be awesome. Now there's the real version, okay? The WWE shop sells, but you can also buy it on Amazon, or you can get the one that is not made of metal but is made of acrylic, and that's the one I want. That's like $250. I don't have that much money, but right. I've always loved that belt. It's probably my most favorite belt of all time, formerly the NWA Heavyweight Championship, moving into WCW, and now what is known as the WWE World Heavyweight title, which they don't even use anymore because they merged it with the other title.
Is that the big gold belt?
That's the big gold belt.
It's not the one Harley was holding when he offered $10,000, and that was a different.
That was the NWA belt.
Okay, right? I believe I remember Ric Flair saying they made that for him at some point. It might have been when they switched from NWA to WCW as a name legally, but
yeah, I believe so. Now I tell you that would be another thing. What is your favorite championship belt of all time, Stephen, because that's worth mentioning. Did you like the original NWA world title belt?
No, it looked too small. Harley Race has this big gut, and it just looks small on him.
Yeah, it did look small.
But it's kind of the coolest belt because the best champions like Jack Briscoe and Terry Funk and Dory Funk and Harley had it 6 times. Flair had it. That particular belt itself, that's kind of the kick-ass belt. And Wahoo McDaniel would try to win that belt. And all my favorite guys are kind of around that belt. But the big gold belt's a really cool-looking belt. I just remember how funny it looked on Sting when Sting won the belt in '98. It just looked so big on him. It was a big old belt.
It was a huge belt, but still to me, that's the coolest looking belt. Although I did like the NWA title. I liked that belt a lot, even though it was small. That was kind of the trend back in the 70s. If you look at the old WWF or the WWF heavyweight title, that title is actually pretty small in comparison.
It is.
So yeah, but I mean, once again, legendary belts, legendary titles, and you can pick those up, the replica ones, by clicking on our Amazon link. Something else you could do, which would really be helpful, is to click on our highspots.com link. And there you can, once again, get some of the coolest shoot videos. I think I was catching up on a shoot video just yesterday, and I'm trying to remember but I clicked on a couple just to kind of look back and see, some of these great wrestling feuds. Oh, it was Rey Mysterio. That's who I was looking at. It was a recent Rey Mysterio RF video that you can find on High Spots, and he talks about how he was working I guess how he was working the latter part of his WWE career. And then he was also talking about his relationship with Eddie Guerrero and how his death affected him moving forward. Yeah. So that's a really good video on what is probably the greatest underdog wrestler of all time, Rey Mysterio. And it's definitely worth checking out. That's arguably the best underdog wrestler of all time.
Ricky Morton, baby.
Ricky Morton. Okay, there you go. So please check that out. Highspots.com. Once again, just click the link, and every little click gives us credit. And even if you don't buy anything, click the links, because we want you to shop around. And eventually, if you're ready to shop, you're ready to buy shoot videos or wrestling memorabilia, you can't go wrong with High Spots. You can't go wrong with Amazon, and we would appreciate it. So without any further ado, Mr. Stephen Anthony has got the wrestling news. So let's talk about
wrestling news.
This week, yes, we have a couple headlines.
Well, the investors' call was today. Today being what is it? Tuesday, Wednesday, or something?
The Thursday. Thursday the 30th.
Is that what it is? Yeah, the investors' call was pretty good. They announced 1.156, if you want an exact number,
of subscribers to the network. Yep. Okay,
so we peaked out at 1.3 million, and then we dropped. What would that be? 14,400 people. That's actually pretty good. They're pretty close to not losing money. They had a very high gross. The network grossed 130 million in the quarter. Now look, the gross versus what they spend is still probably quite a bit off. I mean, that's the deal, but they're almost to the point of not losing money with the network itself. It's almost paying for itself now. If you go 1 year ago, they had 700,000 subscribers. So they've added, 400,000 and change. About, I guess they had 415,000. So that's about a 55 to 60% increase. I think that the stock market like that, they ended up around $19 a share, which is really high for them. It might have gone back down at some point. I don't really know what the last figure was. So it was a pretty good investors call. They didn't really mention anything about the recent activities with Hogan, other than he's out of the picture. That's all they really said. They seem like they just don't want to talk about him at all, and that's fine with me too. It seems like they're going in a good direction. They recorded about a $5.5 million profit for the quarter, and this isn't a really great quarter. Obviously, the best quarter is the WrestleMania quarter. So I think to have 1.1 million now, it's ascertainable for this time next year to have 1.5 million, or at the very least get up to 1.3. I think WrestleMania this year is going to be so awesome that they're probably going to add a lot of subscribers when they do that. I think they're going to add some more. They are going to add some more shows, and they may take a couple that they don't do any longer. And they should add some Raws and Nitros. I'm a big fan of Raw from 95 to 97. And, they almost have 1997 filled up. So, that's a really wild, cool year for WWF stuff, and some pretty interesting things happen that year as well. I'd like to see them add more Nitros, like from 97, 98. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but and I'm kind of wondering why we don't ever see any NWA shows with the Crockett years. Those are some of the best shows you can see, and we've never seen any Mid-South or UWF shows. I know that Bill Watts' wife owns half of the library. I think she actually owns the bulk of it, or at least 50%. That was in the divorce proceeding. So who knew at the time what a big effect that would have for her to get that, and also the startling and shocking idea that it is in fact hard to be married to Bill Watts. That was a joke.
That's gonna be interesting. Here's what you do if you're interested in getting anything from that era. Feel free to go ahead and continually watch stuff from that era.
Right.
And on the WWE network, and then they will be forced to, go ahead and add more, because if no one's watching it, why are they going to concentrate on putting anything up?
That's what I was worried about, honestly. And to me, 1 million people, that's like the hardcore fans. That's like me and you, Al John, and Larry Frank. You know what I mean? That's like guys. That's like guys that want to watch some old school stuff, and I don't just watch. It's not just that I just don't watch. I was saying WWE is not the only thing I watch. Other than the other promotions, I watch a lot of old stuff, especially old WCW. I'll tell you one promotion, just slightly off subject, that I really don't have much love for in retrospect, and I was a huge fan at the time, was, I bet you can guess.
What your promotion was?
Yeah, that I don't like anymore, but I used to love when I first watched it. Can you guess?
When like when we were coming up as kids?
Sort of.
AWA.
ECW.
Okay,
ECW's old shows and pay-per-views especially are just, they do not hold up very well. Other than Masato Tanaka versus Mike Awesome, or Yoshihiro Tajiri versus Super Crazy, I have not seen anything that I've really enjoyed. I did enjoy some of the 1995 is a really good year. Right. But other than that, man, it did not hold up for me at all. And I used to be a mark. I saw ECW in Thibodaux, Louisiana, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Yeah, they came to Thibodaux.
My goodness.
They did a day house show. They did it on Sunday at 2:00. And nobody knew who they were, except for like me and my band Klonopin. That's the only people that knew what was going on. New Jack was sitting in the bleachers. It was the weirdest thing. But that was around the time Sandman left.
Well, I was gonna say I like ECW, but I will tell you it is kind of hard to watch for some reason. I don't know what it is.
I just lag on.
Maybe it's because I'm older. But I will tell you this: it would be great if, for some reason, that WWE could get their hands on more of the AWA stuff. I know a lot of the rights belong to ESPN, but man, that stuff is so good.
Well, I don't. They don't really have a lot other than that AWA special, and that is, of course, blocking us from seeing more Nick Bockwinkel matches.
It really is blocking us from the whole Nick Bockwinkel thing. And that's the thing. A lot of that still is being run on ESPN because they have all the footage rights to it, to my knowledge. I think they probably have a little bit of an agreement with WWE to use some of that archival footage, but a lot of that is it'd be interesting to see what their real agreement is with WWE, if anything.
And the really sad thing about tapes is the NWA tapes from the 70s were taped over.
Hmm.
That's when Crockett was going bankrupt, they started reusing the tape reels. I have no idea why. This would have been 88, late
Hmm.
87, and they recorded over like Ricky Steamboat against Ric Flair from 78. And that's what's truly sad, that we don't have that. But we have like all the Raws from 2011. You know, we can see them crystal clear in HD, see the
Hmm.
Miz over and over again, but I can't see Blackjack Mulligan ripping up Ric Flair's peacock feather robe, ostrich feather robe. You know, which would be incredible to watch. It's supposed to be one of the greatest angles.
Wouldn't it be one of the coolest things ever if someone unearthed some guy maybe took a reel of those tapes and copied them at the TV station just for safekeeping, and then all of a sudden they were unearthed somehow, kind of like what Jim Cornette found, in the dumpster, with the old Mid Atlantic videos. Wouldn't that be
Well,
cool?
but I think they were recorded over for real, though. I mean, it's possible. That would be great. I mean, he's got some stuff. The Watts lady has some stuff, and they have an NWA page for videos. I forgot what it is.
Hmm.
There's some new kind of service to watch it. I'm sure I'll subscribe to it and pay the money, but anything with NWA from 75 basically to the Horseman era is a mystery, and every single thing I see that they have when I watch it is awesome.
Hmm.
It's totally awesome.
Yeah. We'll have to do some research and bring you that link at some
We'll have to
point. But
yes.
all right. Well, so the network is growing incrementally. I would still think that probably one of the biggest issues, and this is the commentary that accompanies the news that we happen to present every week, is that with so much wrestling on free television, it's difficult for people, I think, to buy into the network when there's a perception of what the network is used for, which is simply giving us pay-per-views. And if the perception of pay-per-views is that I can catch up on a next episode of Raw, pay-per-views don't matter. Therefore, no one's going to buy into the network. Do you agree with that?
I think they need to continue doing things like Beast in the East, and that's something they mentioned in the investors call. That is helpful. A shitload of people watched that, and I think they were surprised. But look, if you got something special to put it on. Canadian Stampede was a sort of different pay-per-view they did in 1997. It had a huge 10-man match, and it had just a couple other matches. Great Sasuke was on it against Taka Michinoku, and it was one of their best in your houses. And just doing more unique shows that you film, even if they're house shows, it ain't a bad idea. And it, seeing Neville get to do 20 minutes with a guy like Chris Jericho, that was one of the most fun matches I've seen them put on this year.
I agree. And
that was a really fun match.
And that exclusive content really is what drives us to buy into the network. And it provided the network makes it matter. If that content matters, like the NXT title was on the line. You had, a performer like Brock Lesnar, a surprise, with Chris Jericho being on the card. I mean, that stuff people will tune in for because it does matter, and it does matter in the overall, storytelling that they're trying to do, which was great. So, if they make things matter on the network, then people will tune in to see the network.
Yeah.
So, and truth be told, man, I didn't think I was going to like the TV specials for Swerved, but I actually like it. I think it's really cool. Anything that they do to help bring some personality, like the Tough Talk, which is the post, Tough Enough show.
Yeah,
made Byron Sex Castle, aka what is it? Brian Sexton, Brian Sexton, Saxton.
Byron Saxton's his name, I think.
I keep on butchering his name because you butcher his name. So
I was just hey, I'm worse than Vince with the announcing. Get it right, or I ain't watching.
but it's that people love. I love to see the superstars. Hell, I think it's great that they're putting the JBL and Cole show on the YouTube stuff on the network, because I want to see that JBL and Cole show, which, by the way, is some of the most entertaining stuff that the WWE puts out on a regular basis. If you don't watch a JBL and Cole show, it's funnier than shit. It's awesome.
And
So
they got some new Click Blu-ray DVD coming out, and to be honest, I've seen every match that's on it. I read the match preview, but they did a 30-minute preview that I watched. It was awesome. They have a Kevin Nash thing playing tonight. I can't wait to watch. And they're just doing little things like that's really cool. But honestly, all those old DVDs that I liked and bought, like I could off the top of my head, like Brian Pillman, Road Warriors, AWA, Bobby Heenan, they're all on the network. And that's something I just kind of realized the other day. And take it from, I promise you, I watch that damn network every day. I don't watch WWE every day, but I watch their network every day. No doubt.
right. I think that for me, those specials are very, very valuable because we like our DVDs, we like videos, we like roundtables. Provide us more of that content, and it gives us an opportunity to come back. Like, I watch a Chris Jericho documentary, and the Warrior documentary, those things like that keeps us coming back. The Macho Man story, those type of things. Keep on adding that stuff to the network and bring us the increased value. Bring us that value, because so many of us have spent so many dollars on those DVDs, and it's nice to have it all in one centralized location. So
yeah.
All right. So the investors call went well.
Yep, pretty good.
Now, did they mention anything regarding Tough Enough? Because this week, with all of the Hogan stuff that went down, we had Byron Saxton take over for The Miz on the after show. And then The Miz was promoted to Hulk Hogan's position, making him the third judge on Tough Enough, which seems to finally be getting their wings. They finally, I believe, are starting to have pretty decent halfway through the run of the show. Now I think they figured things out. Vince McMahon is producing Tough Enough, and I believe he's not really used to the type of format. For me, the show is still a mishmash, but they're getting better. Because is it a contest? Is it a reality show? Is it a live show? They have so many different things going on. I think it's hard for people to get into, because it just seems so cobbled together. But I believe they're starting to get their footing. A lot of the what they would call surefire people that people would think make it all the way to the finish line have been eliminated. So now it's anyone's game. And if you're not watching Tough Enough, I watch it every week, and I watch the post show every week. I think it can be intriguing television, but once again, it's giving WWE superstars an opportunity to shine and have a personality that you see outside of the wrestling ring and storylines in the wrestling ring. So I applaud them for trying it, and hopefully more people will watch it so that they can tweak it even further, and we'll see what happens there. Yeah,
I know the rating went down a little bit to I guess it went down to 980,000. So they actually dipped below 1 million.
Something to keep in mind too is that those numbers are live numbers. They don't count for DVR numbers, and I imagine a lot of people DVR that show. So that's always something to keep in mind. So how about this? Layla, WWE Diva, retires. How about that?
I was devastated.
I know. I could tell you were falling apart.
I haven't seen her in a while. I don't know. I guess I wasn't surprised. I think she saw the writing on the wall, to be honest. I think she was like, well, gee, I had my time, and they got about 84 new people coming in. So, it's too bad she didn't come around now. If she would have come around like this month instead of years back, because they're giving them 2 matches every show now. They're giving them 13 and 15-minute long TV matches. They're getting better. They had a better match with Paige and Sasha. So they're trying hard. They just need to stick with it. It will catch on if they keep doing it. They might be oversaturating with 2, only because they haven't properly perhaps gotten some of these people over. But at the same time, you got 3 hours. You might as well start getting people into the idea of it. But people will eventually see how awesome Sasha Banks is. I'm sure of it. But I think the NXT audience honestly makes up 1/10 of the audience of the Raw. Watch the people that watch Raw, not that only you know what I mean. Like the crowd doesn't really know how awesome they are just yet.
Well, yeah, and it's true. It takes some time, and people people, the IWC wants things now. And what you don't realize is, yes, we are a vocal minority.
The
But,
IWC don't draw any money. Their
yeah,
ideas don't
IWC.
draw money. That's
No,
the truth.
no. Well, that's because they already have. We already invested the money. They want new money. They want new blood. They want casual fans to be turned on. And I think the Divas, I think that'll help out a lot,
Yeah.
with the way they're booking it. And, there seem to be some combinations, and hopefully we'll just keep on seeing new and fresh combinations. What I'm curious is, are they going to start putting things at stake? Because if people keep on wrestling and they show how awesome things are, it only will last so long. You have to be able to wrestle for something. You have to be able to fight for something. What's at stake here? Is it pride? Is it going to be the title? Everything should point toward the title. And if you're not pointing it toward the title, then what is the point of all of this? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Exactly.
In terms of Layla, I'm going to leave you with this. This is a statement she put on her Facebook page. She said, today I close the door on the past, open the door to the future, take a deep breath and step on through the next chapter of my life. Thank you to all my loyal fans. I was privileged to have such an amazing career of 9 years. 9 years, wow. Everybody. Like I said, when I won the Diva Search, I won't let you down. I hope I kept my promise to you all. Love the WWE crew, and the guys and gals are all amazing. Love to the family. I could go on and on. So if I missed anyone, I apologize. I love you all and would miss you all. Do this one favor. Stay forever flawless. Layla has left the building.
Hey, and, 9 years is a hell of a run, man. 9 years.
It really is.
Yep.
Hell of a run for her, and WWE wishes her the best in her future endeavors. And the fact of the matter is, she was involved in some really cool storylines in herself. And I think with her and Michelle McCool, probably one of the most influential female tag teams ever to influence a lot of stuff going down in women's wrestling. And they were really good team, the two of them.
This is a little off subject, but a little on. But I just don't understand. We were just talking about Tough Enough, and then we were talking about Layla winning the Diva Search. And we're talking about NXT, right?
Yep.
I mean, but I don't understand. How come we've never pushed the idea of my character, the Banshee? Because we didn't push him, he never got anywhere.
I needed to give you the code for YouTube so we can put all that stuff onto YouTube so I can play it.
Yeah.
I meant to do that, and I keep on forgetting to do that.
Do you want to hear a quick sound clip? It's 10 seconds.
Go for it. Go for it.
Go. I think it's pretty good, and I think you guys, if Triple H, or Stephanie's listening, just listen to this.
I'm the Banshee. I'm crazy. I rule the night.
So
you should have put your phone up to the screen so that people could actually see the video.
I don't know about that. I was wearing my underwear in that one. That was why it was audio only.
Oh, nice. Okay.
No, it wasn't nice. It was terrible. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about the Banshee just for a second because, Tough Enough's going to be over, and ZZ got on from Bayou Buff,
Nice. Well, you could definitely do it. You seem to have all the skills. You seem to have the skill set and know what it takes to be a WWE superstar for sure.
Yeah. Well, I recently learned that a Banshee is actually a female.
Yes, I knew this, and I kind of laughed. I kind of laughed, but in this day and age, anyone can be whatever they want. You know this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay. So Layla retires. What other news? Oh, you mentioned the fact that we had a Lucha Underground. We have a couple more episodes left before the season finale.
Ultimate Lucha, yeah, basically. They're going to do... They got the 2-hour show, and then they're done. So they haven't heard anything yet. They haven't figured anything out. I hear Ultimate Lucha is just awesome. So we'll definitely have to do a show when they do that. I can tell you all that I know for a fact that Vampiro does an awesome match, and I can't wait to see how that's possible. And Johnny Mundo is going to be fighting Del Rio in a very long match. There's all kind of awesome shit. The Black Lotus angle, we're going to see Dario Cueto's brother. There's just all sorts of Prince Pumas in action, King Cuerno, all of all of the. It's going to be fantastic, but that'll be coming up. I think next week. Am I wrong about that? I think
I
they have
believe
two
it
shows.
is next week. Yep, they have 2 more
But
shows.
they had the Falls Count
depending on
Anywhere
when you
match.
listen.
They did the
Yeah.
most ridiculous. I mean, it was better than an ECW brawl, but yeah. The Lucha Underground needs to. They don't just need a TV deal. They need a good TV deal because it's really expensive.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap show. And, they've made a play to sign people like Rey Mysterio and things like that. And unless they get a better TV deal, and really their ratings aren't very high on the El Rey network compared to some other things. I don't know if it'll be like TNA. Now TNA, I can tell you, is recording more shows because they have these European markets that they have to deliver TV for, and they've been doing some tapings. I can tell you 2 spoilers that I swear that fucking Billy Corgan came up with because I know he came up with that fucking train shit. Okay,
Whoa, wait. So we're moving into TNA news.
Is that okay?
That's fine. I have to come up with the spoiler alert sound effect.
Oh,
Hold on a
sure.
second.
Spoiler alert.
Okay, we got spoiler alert. Here we go. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. All right. So what is it?
Matt Hardy loses a match, and Jeff Hardy becomes someone's servant for a month.
Really?
And one other one. Who's the dude with one leg again? What's his name? I really forgot. Chris Melendez.
Yes.
They set up a match. Listen, they set up a match between him and Eric Young, and Eric Young's like, "Okay, we'll do the match, but you have to put your prosthetic leg on the line." So he lost the match. Tonight doesn't have a leg.
Oh,
Good job, Billy. Billy, your stuff is good. That's why I can't even name who's on your show. Oh, yeah, call the police.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Oh.
Spoiler.
And this one isn't a spoiler. I did watch it last night. I couldn't notice Baron Court on the show. Jesse Sorensen lost in, I believe, 19 seconds. So, hey, they really don't like TNA people at WWE or NXT. They are going to squash you if you try to jump. So it's just getting worse.
Wait. So Jesse Sorensen went over to NXT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did not win. He lost in 19 seconds last night. I watched it. Steve Regal, but I never mentioned how much I love Steve Regal. I need to mention that more. What a gem he is on this show, man.
Oh, he's the best, isn't he?
I'm just so happy that he's back on TV. But Baron Corbin squashed him in like 20 seconds. Jesse Sorensen, TNA alum. And there's some more spoilers. I don't want to give it all away. By the invasion angle, we're deep into it. And
but for the record, just so you know, all references to Hulk Hogan in the TNA alumni section have also been removed.
A week later.
Yeah.
Losers.
Just so you know.
Losers. They're losers. That's what TNA is.
So bad.
They're losers. Bad. And it's sad. It's sad. Why? What would have happened? Hey, I read a thing with Bryan Danielson. Wait, what do they call him? Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan.
I'm sorry, I used his real but not real name. He said in 2010, if Paul Heyman would have taken over, like he was having discussions with Dixie, but she didn't want to give him complete control.
Yep.
If he would have done that, he might have gone there. What would have happened?
Not this. I think it's safe to say not this.
So what's his name? Chris Martinez? What is it?
What Melendez?
Melendez.
Yeah. Melendez. Yeah.
I'm not making fun of the fact that, I know he's a veteran. Trust me, my dad's a veteran. I support him 1,000,000%. I just can't believe how awful they book and how nobody. Look, Jesse Sorensen won several matches for this company, and there's like, fuck you, you're getting squashed. They don't build up any names. They're terrible. God, terrible show. What's Jeff Hardy going to do? What's he going to do as the servant? I cannot wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. You know, as you can tell, one thing that's very interesting though is this past week they aired a promo that Tigre Uno, who is the X Division champion,
Yes.
talked about cutting on freaking Donald Trump, which was interesting. And they invited Donald Trump to come to the Impact Zone. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure the presidential,
He ain't
you
showing
know,
up. He ain't showing up.
channel, yeah, he ain't showing up.
No, I mean, but that at least that's better than the other stuff.
Yeah, I guess. And is Brooke actually, is her contract running out? Is that the situation?
Brooke
Do you
Hogan?
know anything about? No, not about Brooke Hogan. I'm talking about Brooke, Miss Tessmacher, over there at Impact.
They're not going to keep anybody like that. They're not going to keep anybody like that.
Probably the hottest thing in women wrestling going on right now is Brooke, and she is
Per appearance deal. Per appearance.
per appearance.
Like, unless you're Jeff Hardy and Kurt Angle, I don't think they're going to pay him.
It's interesting.
$500 a show instead of $300. That's what I hear.
She Instagrammed something today, and she talked about it being the last time that she was wrestling for TNA or something cryptic like that. So,
well, what do you think that could mean?
I don't know.
I've never seen anything like this because with ECW, like they still were drawing 5,000-6,000 people at house shows, not house shows, but pay-per-views, and getting buy rates of some significance comparatively to now. And then they just ran out of money and shut down their doors instantaneously. And then everybody was on Raw. That's what happened to ECW. Unless you're Steve Corino or something, you couldn't get a job with them. But this is sad. This is a sad deal. I mean, look how far we've come in 6 months with them. I mean, what do the next 6 months hold?
It's very, very sad. Any other wrestling news for this week?
Yeah, I have big news. AJ Styles has just signed a huge contract with TNA. No, I'm just kidding. That didn't happen. No, that didn't happen.
All right. Well, so there you have it. This week in wrestling news, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. And
Ring of Honor is doing better than ever. I just hope they don't come up with a show where there's sea monsters that are being discovered, because they may lose their other time slot, and I wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah, well,
they're on Sinclair. They don't need to worry about that dumb fucking network anyway.
Yeah, they're all right. They're all right. So that is the wrestling news for this week. And once again, what are your thoughts? Feel free to chime in on social media. Let's move on to the steak, if you will. This is my favorite part of the show. This is our big wrestling discussion. Let's talk about the top 5 wrestling angles of the modern era.
Okay.
And let's first define what we're talking about. Okay. The modern era, Steven, you and I had talked about this weeks ago. We said we need to do a top 5 list. And here's what we have now. We could have done a top 10, but they really probably would have been broken up into 2 shows. We would have talked forever about it. It would have been a long ass show. But this is about the modern era. The modern era being defined as Starrcade, which was the first big pay-per-view for wrestling.
Right.
To
83.
today. Right. So that is that is where we're going to start. And for me, I've got this. I prepared a little statement, and Steve, you can chime in on this as well. But these top 5 of the best wrestling angles or storylines of the modern era have undoubtedly left an indelible mark on our lives and reflecting so many great moments of the past 30 years. They are stories that give us pieces of time that we can never forget. They have refused to fade from memory. Even through the passing of time, they're being the most talked about angles of decade after decade. Many of them, I believe people still talk about them. They've proven the power to entertain, enchant, inform, and move us emotionally. These are the top wrestling angles from my standpoint and from Steven's standpoint. And we want you to chime in too with your top 5 as well. And there's so many, Steven. It was so hard to choose just 5.
Right.
And
It
just
was.
so you know, there are rivalries slash feuds. There are, you know, people that are constantly, you know, when one looks to, let's say, a Dusty Rhodes, you could easily say, well, there's a Dusty Rhodes versus Ric Flair. You know, that would be a feud that is possibly a historically significant feud. Or
Sure.
you could see something like a you know, particular match that was historical, you know, let's say champion versus champion, Hogan versus Warrior. You could say that. But I chose, for me, ongoing you know, ongoing events, historically prominent moments, things that people still talk about that lasted a long while, and I would say several years, and something and angles that have changed the way wrestling, the business of professional wrestling, um, it's changed it. It changed it totally. So, how about you? What are some of your criteria? What are your thoughts when you were putting this list together?
There's a couple of, I mean, a couple of them were just that I had at least were just on one episode. They probably ran throughout the course of an hour, and then some of them ran for an entire year. But it's not really a match. It's an angle, and it's an angle that sets up other things. So to me, an angle is really what wrestling's all about. It's about the angle, and then you have a match. The match is just the gravy on top to me. You know,
It's a storyline,
sorry.
the build.
Right. Sorry, IWC. That's the thing, you know. I mean, when they build up a match properly, it doesn't matter that it's a half-star match between Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. They've built it up to the point where 93, really 78,000 people show up, and they're all in there, and you know, that's what drew them in. So to me, it's anything that really draws the money, you know. Something like Flair and Dusty rivalry, to me, that's more of a feud, a long-term feud where there's individual angles within that. But yes, I could see it that way. Now, some things like last over a long period of time, and the angle matriculates a little bit as the feud goes on. So there's a fine line there. But yeah, I basically agree with what you're saying.
Okay, well, good. Let's start off with number 5. Very hard, but I'm going to. Well, actually, why don't you go ahead and start with your number 5, and I'll try to pull up some. Actually, no. Here you go.
Jesus Christ!
Here you go. Let's start off with my number 5. Can you hear this?
Heenan blowing it.
What are you talking about? Yes, sir. Get him, Hogan. Go get him, baby. Come on and get some of this now. Who's bad now, boys? Hulk Hogan arrived. Hulk. What is he doing? God. Is he the third man? He's the third man. What the hell is going on here? Hulk Hogan has betrayed WCW. He is the third man. Look at this picture. Oh, my God. What the hell is going on? Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? That was the longest shot ever given to professional wrestling. That man did right there.
Almost telegraphed
Let's get everybody out of the
by
ring
Bobby
right
Heenan.
now. Hit his rear end.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, brother.
White.
What have I been saying all these
You know, where were you?
What have I been saying all these years?
Yeah, where were you in 1996 when the NWO was formed at Bash at the Beach?
Right down the drain, kid.
There you
I
go.
wasn't watching anymore.
Can you see those little soul of the devil? See those little monsters with the tears rolling down their face right now? We are not going to even acknowledge that 3 count. Now
We're not going to acknowledge that 3 count.
WCW.
So
There's no 3 count.
Great angle.
I'm gonna. All right. Just.
Truck in Minneapolis, and if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, all these Johnny-come-latelys that you see out here, wrestling wouldn't be here. I was selling out the world, brother, while they were bumming gas to put in their car to get to high school. So the way it is now, brother, with Hulk Hogan and the New World Organization of Wrestling, brother, me and the new blood by my side, what you gonna do when the New World Organization runs wild on you? What you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Don't touch me, I'm gonna pay the lawyers.
I love Mean Gene. Don't touch me. I've got a fleet full of lawyers. I love it. So the historical significance, NWO, it was pretty much the culmination of the outsiders coming in from WWF into into WCW.
Yeah.
And really changing how we perceive. And this was throughout the Monday Night Wars. It's really how it kind of started for WCW versus WWF at the time. So historical, yes. Not just to see Hulk Hogan turn from the biggest babyface into the biggest heel imaginable, but also the reality of bringing in those wrestlers like Kevin Hall. You and I have been messing up names all day. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, the outsiders coming in from WWF, and bringing that sense of reality that was missing in a cartoony landscape of sports entertainment. So the NWO at Bash in the Beach being formed in 1996 is number 5 in my top angles of the modern era. How about you, my friend? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a tremendous one because it turned wrestling around. No matter what anybody says, wrestling died off with Hulk Hogan and came back with Hulk Hogan. Basically wrestling was dead in the water. And then all of a sudden, Hogan turns heel, the NWO starts, and then slowly it comes back. Wrestling was dead in the water from 92 to 96. They were down to their base core. Bret Hart versus whatever's on TV and not getting a lot of buy rates at the pay-per-view. That turned it around. It took about 6 months to a year after that angle. But about a year later, you knew it. The tide had turned. People were watching wrestling. Who's Stone Cold Steve Austin? Did you hear Hulk Hogan's a bad guy? Mm-hmm. And that's when I got back into it because I was trying to be a cool musician in high school, so I didn't really see when Diesel was champion. I remember Doink. That might have been when I got out, and then the word got around. I think I saw Rodman on with Hogan, and I'm like, so what's been going on? This is different. And I saw Steve Austin and Undertaker on the other show. I started watching again. I think that angle, turned everything around to start it.
Sure did. You were in high school. I was in college, and we were doing Monday Night Raw parties, Monday Night Raw and WCW parties, which were great after that. And it was the thing to do. Like you said, it was the thing to talk about on college campuses. It was the fun thing to do. Everyone get together, drink beer, have fun, watch wrestling. And that's what my Monday nights consisted of in college. And it was a really fun time for me. And the stories were great. So how about you? How about your number 5?
My number 5 is pretty interesting. I could have came up with a lot of different ones from the WWF in the early 80s. Everybody naturally goes to Andre, and I definitely thought about Andre Hogan. But the one that I really like is an angle where Paul Orndorff, who was always a heel and aligned with Roddy Piper, turns on Piper because they're both being sort of egotistical. So Piper as a heel and Bob Orton, Randy Orton's dad, Bob Orton Jr., jump Orndorff, and Orndorff becomes a baby face. And they're attacking Orndorff here and there, and he's kind of feuding on and off with them. He's got a great baby face finisher with this great stuffed pile driver. And then Hulk Hogan eventually comes to his side, and they start training together. Okay, that's kind of how the angle gets started. And they have these great matches and stuff. And then very much like Paul Orndorff sounds in real life, Paul is, they basically want to take on Paul and Hogan. The Heenan family does. So Bobby Heenan gets involved, and he's always a great catalyst. So he's like, I want to do a match with King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd against you and Hogan. And he's like, we're going to whip you guys. So he leaves the ring, and he goes to the back to get on the phone. And basically all that happens is Hulk Hogan basically is training and won't answer the phone. And this is enough to turn Paul Orndorff evil again. And there's this great shot. I wish I had the audio clip lined up like you did. That was very professional of you. But he's looking at the screen and he goes, "He won't answer the phone." And that basically all that happens. So Hogan says, "Hey man, I'm sorry about it," but Orndorff won't let it go. So they do their now they're doing Saturday night's main event against Bundy and Studd, and they're doing the pre-interview, and Paul's still pissed. And Hogan says, and I quote, "You got to let the phone thing go. Let it go. I was working out. I couldn't answer the phone for a couple hours, So they do the match. Hogan's in trouble, as usual, as the babyface. And so he makes the hot tag. Orndorff comes in. They clear the ring. And Orndorff clotheslines the shit out of him stiff and gives him a beautiful stuff pile driver and starts off one of the great match feuds that they did. They eventually sold out like 60,000 people at a house show in Canada. Between Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan, they did a Saturday night's main event off of that angle. That was.
Hey, I think I have some. I have some audio of Roddy Piper and Orndorff and Bob Orton training for WrestleMania in '85. Is that something that I believe that was part of?
That's earlier in it. After the match, it's kind of like Orndorff took the pin from. No, Orton took the pin. No, did Orndorff? No, Orndorff took the pin from Hogan.
Okay,
I think, and that's what started it off. Piper was pissed off, and it's a really beautiful angle. Orndorff's so underrated.
He really is.
He was so terrific. He had his arm basically muscle started to atrophy. He had this terrible injury, and he just kept wrestling through it. But that's one of my favorites. Paul Orndorff turns heel on Hulk Hogan for not answering the phone in a timely manner. And stuff pile drives him just in a brutal fashion.
Well, that's great. And the thing about this list is that you and I didn't talk about this
right
prior, because we wanted to make sure that we kind of surprised ourselves with this throughout this entire thing that we're talking about. If I find the promo, I'll definitely let you know and call it up. So I'm looking at these things as we discuss that situation. But yes, it's definitely one to check out for sure. So I talked now about our number 4.
Right.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about your number 4, and I'll try to help you out here.
My number 4 is a little bit more of a rarity.
Okay.
Essentially, this is from the Mid-South UWF days, and it involves Bill Watts. Now, the Cowboy is a guy we talk about. He's a very notorious booker, and he's done all these controversial things. But as a wrestler, he was an enormous draw, and he did a feud with Eddie Gilbert, and essentially Eddie Gilbert had aligned himself with evil Russians. And Bill Watts actually called them steroid freak Russians. One day Gilbert comes out and says to Watts, I don't want to what the main catalyst of the angle is the fact that they would bury their opponents in the Russian flag. It's a tremendous piece of work. I mean,
not very few minutes ago, I stood out here and I asked for something that I thought was kind of simple, and that was for Cowboy Bill Watts to please come out here. Thank you.
That's Eddie Gilbert.
Not very few minutes ago, I stood out here and I asked for something that I thought was kind of simple, and that was for Cowboy Bill Watts to please come out here so I could talk to him, so I could apologize to him, not in front of just these people here, but everybody at home watching television. And Mr. Watts, if you're listening, please give me this opportunity. Please give me this time to wipe out my slate of being associated with the Russians. There's the flag. If you come out here and let me tell you exactly what's on my mind and how you've made me see the light. If there's any way possible,
how good is Eddie Gilbert?
And just a spoiler alert, Eddie Gilbert is probably lying right now as he's doing trouble.
This is not something that just happened overnight. And and I really need to talk to him about it. I tell you what, I'm not gonna leave this time until he comes out here, because this has been bothering me.
We're gonna fast forward through this, but
so Watts comes out, and Watts is like, okay, good. And if I'm not mistaken, Watts' great idea, and it would probably be quite controversial now, is to burn the Russian flag in the ring with him. So he would then prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that he was no longer going to work with the Russians.
So I will still be with the Blade Runners. They're my team. They're the greatest tag team. That's okay, boys. I'm just telling Mr. Watts that I have
Blade
nothing
Runners
more to
is
do
out.
with the Russians. I don't want to see that flag anymore. You're right. I was wrong. You are a great man. And in the past few weeks, I've been very stupid and very foolish, and you're great. I can't believe it. I'm just saying that. Well, it's about time. It's about time.
and then
Oh, no, it's the Russians.
here comes the Russians. And then they continue to beat up the cowboy.
The Russians beat the shit out of him and bury him in the Russian flag. It's a beautiful angle. And at the very end of the show, if I'm not mistaken, Watts, they're all kind of in the ring, talking about how funny they were that they put one over. So you had basically two Russians, Koloff and I think it was Crusher Khrushchev. You had the Blade Runners, Sting and Ultimate Warrior when they were rookies, and Eddie Gilbert. And Watts comes out at the end with his head taped up with a baseball bat and cleans house. And then Watts does a series of matches. This was in 1986. This was his last big run. And it had a pretty big effect on me when I saw it when I was young. And I can't get over how awesome the burying the guy in the flag angle is. So basically, a wrestler's knocked out prone in the ring, and you basically just drape a flag over him, which is kind of, it looks a lot like, burying a soldier. So it kind of has that connotation. It's a very stunning visual, and so to do it to Watts, who was the shoot and kayfabe owner of Mid-South UWF. It was a great angle. It was his last big run. It didn't have huge box office, just to be honest with everybody. He had a comeback run with the Midnight Express 2 years before that, called The Cowboy's Last Ride, which was also awesome. But that's definitely my number 4, Bill Watts in all his glory. And just really controversial, calling them steroid freak Russians and wanting to burn the Russian flag. Can you imagine he said that, steroid freak Russians?
I can't believe it, but at the time, I don't remember what the timing was of Rocky 4. Was it Rocky 4, I believe, with the evil Ivan Drago and the Russian thing? That was a really big thing. And of course, the Russians and their scandals that go on for the for all that just is quite interesting, to say the least. But that's the height of the Cold War. It was always about Russia versus America, and it was definitely one for sure. So
just want to let you know, I'm not going to hang out with the Russians anymore. I'm not going to hang out with them. It's totally over. What a great heel. So lost before his time. His brother Doug is another outlaw wrestler. Great. The Gilbert boys are straight up dangerous and occasionally shooters.
Occasionally.
When they shoot, boy, it's a problem.
All right. Well, it's still Eddie Gilbert, still gold. You gotta love Eddie Gilbert.
Love it.
For number 4 for me, though, it was actually something very new, and that was the ending of Undertaker's streak with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30. And I chose it because of the significance. You have probably what would be considered the biggest streak in sports entertainment and in all of entertainment, really. When you look at the WrestleMania moments that the Undertaker's had, how many of them has he come out on top? Something that people were really questioning. Will this be the time that the streak will end? And no one thought, even going in, I don't think anyone had thought in a million years that the streak was going to end.
Right.
And then when it happened, it was, I can't believe the streak ended. And in retrospect, I don't know if it was necessarily best for business. They were trying to, WWE was trying to do things in order to spike network subscriptions at the time. And that's where they trot out the big guns, Undertaker being one of the biggest guns of them all. And it's proving to be something that they can rely on, good or bad or indifferent. IWC Undertaker means people are going to watch, when you have the Undertaker and you have a commodity like Brock Lesnar involved. And I think it was such a shock, and still to this day, people still talk about it to the point where they're bringing back this rivalry, this angle to spruce up SummerSlam this year. So, the biggest streak that has carried over, so many years, over 2 decades, with it ending at WrestleMania 30 is my number 4 historical moment there.
I thought that was a great decision. A lot of people didn't like it, especially wrestlers. But, it ushered in this newer era of Brock Lesnar, the monster. He had a great year after that. It popped the network number when they first needed it to some degree. And, Undertaker barely wrestles anymore. I didn't really see any problem with it. The only problem was the match wasn't great. But, it didn't really matter because everybody remembers it. Everybody talks about it. And Vince McMahon is really, at times, a brilliant booker. He knew that match was going to suck because, Undertaker was probably very honest about his physical impairments. And I'm sure Lesnar knew how to work around it. But it wasn't going to be a physical Brock Lesnar match like he'd had with Cena or Triple H before that. Those matches were very physical. And, of course, he's had some since with Reigns and stuff. But,
Undertaker got his bell rung. Undertaker got his bell rung legitimately. And
I know.
Once again, how much of a badass is it to take an ass whipping from Brock Lesnar, UFC champion, former UFC champion, and a complete badass in his own right. I mean, he's a man's man. And the defending idea of him getting pinned was so shocking that it made it worth it. Because the shock on people's faces, I was shocked. It was well worth it. The match didn't matter all of a sudden. No, it didn't, because it was all about the story. The streak was defeated by the Beast. It's something that I'm talking about now. It's giving me chills because it takes you back to that moment. And when he Lesnar pinned Undertaker 1, 2, 3 in the middle of WrestleMania, in the middle of that ring, you could hear a pin drop. You could hear a pin drop. Nobody could believe it. I couldn't believe it. I'm getting goosebumps and my hair's raising on end right now just talking about it because it takes you back. That's what these angles do, folks. It brings chills to your spine and it automatically brings you back. I'm still I feel like it was yesterday. I just am speechless over it. So that was my number 4. So moving on to number 3. Mr. Stephen Anthony.
I'm going to do a modern one, if you can believe it.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
I bet you figured all of mine were going to be old, right?
I thought you might. I didn't.
Well, so far I got 2 from 85 and 86, right?
Okay.
I'm going to say the CM Punk shoot from 2011, the worked shoot from 2011 that led to the pipe bomb. Right. The reason I would say this is because this is one of the first times in years, and the last time that I can remember, that something happened where people thought it was a shoot. I honestly thought it was a shoot when I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, he's shooting. And then I thought, wait, they wouldn't let him shoot. Or maybe he'll be fine. They did it perfect. The way he delivered it, I'm not a big CM Punk fan, and I wasn't a huge CM Punk fan once he got to whatever it was, ECW and WWE kind of situation, because I like the old CM Punk, the indie CM Punk with the long hair and the blonde even CM Punk. But this was just so needed at the time because everybody was feeling that the stupid son-in-law and his damn daughter and all this, and click, the mic goes off. It's like, whoa, that was like something I would say. But that's when it really hit me that they had keyed into what people were saying on the internet a little bit more and drew it into real life. Now, sometimes when you do internet things, it doesn't work. Russo's famous for that. Like Eric Bischoff saying, oh, where's the scissors, Sid? People don't know that story.
No, but they totally know this.
John, I don't even dislike you. I do like you. I like you a hell of a lot more than I like most people in the back.
That's what you mean with the shoot, right?
I hate this idea that you're the best. Because you're not. I'm the best. I'm the best in the world. There's one thing you're better at than I am, and that's kissing Vince McMahon's ass.
What a great line.
Yeah.
And it gets better.
You're as good as kissing Vince's ass as Hulk Hogan was.
Well, Hulk Hogan weaseled his way into the promo.
I don't know if you're as good as Dwayne, though. He's a pretty good ass kisser. Always was and still is. Oops, I'm breaking the fourth wall. I am the best wrestler in the world.
Yeah, I'm not going to play the whole entire promo, but I mean,
And
he
he
says
is
a lot of stuff.
daughter and his doofus son-in-law and the rest of his stupid family. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon. All right, can we do this whole bully camp?
And the mic
There you
gets
go.
cut off. There
That
we
was
go.
perfect. That was perfectly
it.
done. It felt.
Perfectly
Looking
done.
back, it's like how could I ever been goofed and fooled in that?
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean that is one of the best promos ever cut, and probably one of the bringing reality back into wrestling. I can totally agree with that. It believe it or not, that is not on my list. It is an honorable mention. It was in my top 10.
All right.
But you know, that was a huge moment for, you know, so. But yes, I agree. And continue, please continue.
It ushered in the CM Punk era. The CM Punk era lasted, you know, about another 2 or 3 whatever years, and they gave him a good run, and they gave it the best shot they probably could. Jim Rome bought it. Like Jim Rome was talking about it on his show. So some news outlets seem to legitimately believe it. They really thought he was shooting, and his contract really was up. And then he had this match coming up at Money in the Bank, and he won the match. And then Del Rio did the cash in, and he got away in time, and Vince was out there. And then it became evident that it was a shoot. It became evident that that it was all planned, but you know, people actually believed it up until that point. They really did think that he was shooting and that they were having him on TV, and they did it right that first time, because I actually fucking bought it.
Yeah,
and
a lot of people did.
There was another shoot I actually bought. I'll bring it up in my honorable mentions, but that was one of the two. So that's why I give it that one.
No, that's very good. Very good. Well, on the point of reality, this is a significant moment, historically significant in terms of angles in the modern era, because I really do believe this is an attempt by early wrestling to do reality TV. You know what you know what I'm referring to?
No.
Okay. Here we are in all of its glory. So name this tune.
All right.
Serious contusions and bruises to both legs, and the right leg, the knee hyperextended as a result of the figure 4 leg lock with the added leverage of pulling the ropes. Well, the 4 horsemen have their own way of dealing with people like Dusty Rhodes when the NWA, the officials, and the promoters don't see fit to. And I want you to take a good, hard look, Dusty Rhodes and everybody else. This is how the 4 horsemen deal with this situation. What a surprise this is going to be. No, that's not a Mercedes. It's one of them little convertibles. Mr. Big Shot. See how Big Shot he is today.
Oh,
sure. I'm just not clear what we're doing. You just sit there and I'll tell you what to do.
The cameraman.
I'm paying your money. That's all you need to know. That's him right there.
Just make your mark. Yep.
Yeah, that's him. Hey, go on.
The dastardly laughing in the background.
JJ's awesome.
So good.
I'll lean on right on his tail. Don't let anybody get. That's it. I don't think he's seen us. That's it.
So needless to say.
Uh-oh.
Give
Uh-oh, parking lot attack.
Parking lot attack, getting jumped. To the point where they had to block it out. Dusty getting choked out with a bat. Arn Anderson tying the American Dream to the pickup truck. Camera going crazy. This is before Jerry Springer, folks. This is before Morton Downey Jr. Look at that. Arm tied. Yeah, there you go. And it's
Make it good.
Make it good.
Great angle, and it looks great. The camera shots are great on that.
That to me, I don't even know what to say, because that
was my number 2, by the way. You screwed me up. I got alternates if you.
No. This is good that we haven't.
It's tremendous.
Our picks are a little slightly different, but that to me is just great. You couldn't get any better than this. It's black and white hats versus black hats, good versus evil. A bunch of thugs jumping out and breaking the arm of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. We're talking about the Four Horsemen, and that to me is the clip never gets old. It is still, it holds up to this day, and really, really catapulted that shoot aspect. Is it real? You've never seen anything like this before on TV. That style of shooting really ended up being developed by so many other people, and is a hallmark to this day of how to shoot action, how to convey movement, how to convey a story, and how to push a story forward, and making it look as real as possible. And you couldn't, in fans of the day, you could never tell, and what was real and what was being staged. And this was definitely one of those things, to the point where they were writing cards and letters to the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, wishing him a speedy recovery. So that to me, I think, changed wrestling, and I think that is one of my picks there for the best wrestling angles of the modern era. So
I felt the same way. I wanted to put that one high up. I kind of got reminded of it when we were talking about Dusty, and I talked about it a bit during the Dusty Rhodes tribute show we did a few weeks back. Dusty, basically linking reality violence with what you see. You can see like the Miz do whatever that move is he does, where the skull crushing finale.
Yep.
Is that real violence? Well, not really. I mean, but have you seen your friend jumped in a parking lot? If you ever do, it's a pretty tense situation. It's scary. There's concrete. People are, it's that angle felt that kind of terror, where people are just out of control and somebody is prone 5-on-1. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be, Chuck Liddell back in 90 whatever. Like if you're getting jumped 5-on-1, you're done. It doesn't matter. It could be a bunch of school kids with a bat. You're in trouble.
Yeah. And
it was so it feels realistic now. So many angles don't hold water over the test of time, but that one certainly did. I love that angle. And that was a strong number 2 for me. It was almost like the other 3 were just sort of really great. And this one and the next one are, I thought we're heads and shoulders above the others.
Right on. So your number 3 was what?
No, my number 3 was CM Punk. And then that was my number 2.
That was number 2. Well, shoot. Well, I guess we're back. Well, and that was awesome. No, I'm good now. I'm back on track.
I could find a new number 2 quick.
No. I've got a number 2. I've got a number 2. No, that's fine. Let's keep it real. So number 2 is actually Austin versus McMahon. And that's for me. And for me, this angle was all about that chemistry of rivalry and angle. And there's so many great moments and historically significant moments in it. And once again, we're talking about things that fans remember. People remember the stunner. People remember the beer bath. People remember the cement truck. People remember the bang bang gun. People remember all of that stuff that happened as part of this rivalry, ultimately angle that took up a lot of 1997 and 1998 and forward, really moving forward. So I think it broke a lot of new ground. I think it was really part of how the WWE managed to get on top of WCW, and that is the historical significance of it. So entertaining, memorable, historically, part of history, wrestling history, and it's really hard to pinpoint one one moment of it.
Right.
But that was my number 2.
So many great moments in that. He being Vince really did such a great job of reacting to how people saw him after the screw job.
Right.
It would have been easy to roll over and die. So here you have an up and coming baby face. Now, the houses that Austin started to draw even before champion, because Michaels hurt his back, what was it, mid-January of 98, and then Austin was the only headliner. The house shows were soaring up January, February, March, so they knew when he had the belt, he literally took the promotion on his shoulders, but it was sort of like, well, he's not really going to have a heel to feud with. But Vince took it upon himself to become, he's like, God, I need a heel for my main guy. Well, shit, I'll be the heel. That's almost how it came across. And he basically just had to act like he acts, and that's kind of what he did. The Stooges, we can't leave out. They had a huge part in it. Patterson and Briscoe were willing to take fucking awesome bumps and do all kind of dumb comedy to be just guys out there. J and J Bro and Security have nothing on those two. That was the ultimate
Stooges. Yeah,
that was, if anything, a tribute to them. But you can't beat Briscoe and Patterson. You can't beat when they did the match at the I think it was Over the Edge, and they announced Patterson for a long time. They announced Briscoe. They have this long thing where they announce how great they are. They say the best part is the announcer is forced to say that Pat Patterson was a great role model for children, which if you know anything about Pat Patterson, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, totally. There you go. It's Vince McMahon in a wheelchair.
Oh, the wheelchair. Right.
Stone Cold in the ring.
Well, roll on down here, Vince. I'll be happy to change your little diaper for you.
You talking about quitting? Well, let me tell you something. Maybe my incompetent attorneys can't do anything about that legal document, but by God, so help me, I'll find a way. And tonight just might be that way, because I would like nothing better than to hear from your lips, I quit.
This is from 1998.
Right, of course.
And Austin,
Red
since
hot.
you are once again gainfully employed, and apparently there's not too much I can do about it, then whether you brought your wrestling gear or not, tonight you're going to compete in that very ring.
So
great stuff.
I finally have your attention now, don't I?
Oh, there's Shane O'Mac. So I'm gonna.
The best part of that. The best part later on is when he's in the wheelchair for a while, and at Survivor Series they have the tournament. They finally get Austin to lose, so they know he won't win the tournament. McMahon leaps out of his wheelchair. He wasn't hurt, and he and Patterson and Briscoe skip to the back. They literally skip to the back like they're so joyful.
Yeah.
And that was such a magic time. I don't think it'll ever be as good as it was in 98. That was not the whole year, but man, drug Shawn Michaels, as we call him, Undertaker Kane leading into Austin, winning the strap, leading into Vince versus Austin, that fucking magnificent summer. And Nitro was still pulling high ratings in the 5s. They had Warrior come back. They had Ric Flair's incredible return. 98 of the modern era, just to throw this out there, was, not a really greatly wrestled year in the WWF or WCW like it had been actually, but angle wise and popularity, that was the
Hot.
zenith of everything,
White hot. Merch
So
sales through the roof. Houses were packed, arenas were packed, and it was commonplace to hear people talk about wrestling, and it was the thing to do. And you're looking at ratings, you're looking at people making 5.6 ratings, 5.4, 5.8 ratings on both sides, WCW and WWF at
Crazy.
the time. I mean, I couldn't imagine, 13 million people watching wrestling on a Monday night is ridiculous. Anything to score that to this day, you'd be hard pressed to find any TV show score a 4 or 5, something like that in the ratings on a weeknight. So that's a testament to how hot wrestling was.
Hot.
White hot. So how about you, my friend?
Well, this would be my number one coming up here.
Okay, so let's before we do number one,
Right.
there were some honorable mentions.
Right.
And I'm just going to mention it. Of course, we talked about the summer of CM Punk and the pipe bomb being one. You and I both agree that, and we talked about this briefly, Hogan versus Macho Man with Miss Elizabeth and the superpowers de-evolving into what looked like also a very realistic angle, Miss Elizabeth in the arms of Hulk Hogan, Macho Man fuming in jealousy and rage, and that culminated into what was a very good story, So how about you? How about those are a couple? How about you?
I have a few. I have for the more modern era, I had Michaels and Jericho when Michaels' wife got hit.
That's on there as well for my honorable mention.
Hogan and Macho Man for sure. Not so bad of an idea to be paranoid about Hogan being around your wife.
Yeah, not especially in retrospect.
By the way, Flair, Dusty, the angle they did in the cage with the Russians and the Four Horsemen, that was a different Dusty attack. I could have lied and put that one number 2, but it's kind of almost interchangeable with the parking lot. The parking lot's perfect, though. Mm-hmm. It's very violent. I had another Mid-South angle involving Ted DiBiase and Ric Flair turning Ted DiBiase baby. It would take a while to explain it. It is awesome. I really I'm not sure if that flag angle is awesome enough to be where it is, but I wanted to include Bill Watts in some way because he's the shit. I had Brett and Shawn at Survivor Series. I don't even know if that's an angle.
No, well, that rivalry / angle, I think, really culminated into a lot of things, even post when Brett decided to leave in going to the screw job, because yes, it was an angle and there was legitimate heat between the two, and it did stand the test of time because there was so much heat, and also a potential for other angles to spring up outside into different promotions out of that when Brett left to WCW, but was basically put on the shelf to spite WWF, which was the most idiotic thing. When researching this, you could look up all kinds of stuff about the worst wrestling angles and the most lascivious wrestling angles and the ones that fell flat or the ones with most potential or whatever. But it's very difficult to come up with a list of the best. And I think we've done a pretty damn good job there, of outlining it. The one thing that I will add for me, just for historical significance, was literally Hogan versus Andre leading up to WrestleMania 3. And the Piper's Pit, where Andre rips the cross and starts getting Hogan to bleed there, and Piper goes, "You're bleeding, Hulk." And that was to me one of the biggest things as a child that I can remember going, wow, this is real. There's some legitimate stuff because Andre made Hulk bleed.
Yeah, and let's just say that Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon booked all this, and they're owed a lot. Macho Man Hogan, Andre Hogan, Paul Orndorff Hogan, that's all from two men's minds, really, for the most part.
The best booking team and the best run of anybody out there, probably, and responsible for so much is Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon.
Give it up to Patterson. He is the man, I promise.
Pat Patterson is a bona fide genius, and so good. Any other honorable mentions? Because that would have rounded out my top 10 for sure.
Yeah, there was a Stan Hansen angle from Japan that actually had me believing it was a shoot where he's given an enziguri. He falls on the ground, passed out, but it's fake. Terry Gordy thinks it's really happening. He didn't clue him in. Hansen gets up and claims that the guy tried to potato him and starts literally beating the shit out of everybody. Gordy tries to stop Hansen like in real life. He goes up to Giant Baba and pushes him, says he tried to potato me, and I actually bought it. I thought it was real for a while. I really thought he had lost control. But his matches in Japan are so completely out of control and destructive. I thought, I guess, and then I thought of it hit me like, why would Stan Hansen be mad that someone potatoed him? He would not get mad about that. He would just start beating you to death. And then I realized, like, I'm a fool. But that was the other angle. I was actually worked. I actually believe that. But hard to translate some of the Japanese angles unless you can see it visually and know the backstory and know so.
Well, I think that these angles will resonate with a lot of people that have followed wrestling over the past 30 years. And I think that's important. So anyway, here we are, folks. The number one moment, the moment you've all been waiting for. Yes, the show is going long, but what do you have, Mr. Stephen Anthony, for number one?
Macho Man gets eaten by a fucking snake. Jake the Snake, whose eyes are like two black dots in the sky, as he says, has been in a long feud with the Macho Man. The Macho Man is retired by Ultimate Warrior, and they needed to get him back in action some way. Jake ties him in the ropes, and he is literally bitten by a huge motherfucking snake for probably about 3 minutes. Here's a little bit of audio clip.
Oh, you got the audio? Okay, awesome.
He's got it too close to it. Keep it away from it. That snake is wait a minute, the snake is running. Oh, the snake is biting it. The snake is biting it.
Cobra.
I'm out of here.
Get some help. The snake is gnawing on the arm of Randy Savage, who's helpless, tied in the ropes. All I can say is that snake better be devenomized. It better be.
All right, now look. Now at this point in the angle, Jake the Snake realizes that he can't get the snake off of him.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts wiggling the snake. It's the most incredible visual. It's such a stupid thing, like, oh, a snake's gonna bite him. This snake is going nuts on his arm. Now, Macho Man is crazy enough to do this. This angle is absolutely insanity. It is absolute insanity. I know a lot of people have seen it. If you haven't seen it, look at it on the network or YouTube or wherever you can. By the way, they culminated in a match on, it's a very little known pay-per-view called Tuesday in Texas. It was a pay-per-view they did after Survivor Series 91 where Undertaker beat Hulk Hogan, which is a wonderful match for me to watch because I hate Hulk Hogan, as I've said the last week. And always have, honestly. Ever since the moment Andre the Giant choked his ass out, I was like, you know what? I'm just not digging this guy. So this is a long thing for me. But anyway, at the Tuesday in Texas pay-per-view, they have an incredible, it's a 9-minute, 10-minute long match. And it ends with a clean pinfall. He gives him the elbow drop. And Jake is so incredible that he gets all of his heat back within 5 minutes. A clean pin, and it doesn't even matter. And it was all set up by, well, just basically just a snake attack.
Snake deeper into the arm of Randy Savage. This is not supposed to happen. Roddy Piper there. Oh no, Elizabeth! I can't believe she's going to witness this horror. Elizabeth. Jake with a snake moving in.
At this point, the snake is in the ring off of him. He finally got it off. And his head is kind of craned up. I guess it's a king cobra that's devenomized they use. And Jake is smiling at him. And it looks like the snake is smiling back at Jake.
It's so good.
I don't know how they pulled that off, but it's like, all right, good job. And the snake's like, yeah.
Great job. Thank you. I'm the best actor in the world.
It was tremendous.
He deserves to slam me.
And after this, Macho Man, who's a great, one of the greatest performance artists of all time.
Yes.
starts hallucinating in the ring, acting like he's hallucinating, and it's just tremendous. And it leads to him coming back and a great feud. And the match on Tuesday in Texas, a little known pay-per-view, and the angles before and after. There's a promo that Macho Man cuts after that match, the Tuesday in Texas one, which is literally, I can only literally describe it as a cocaine-induced nervous breakdown. That's the only way that I can describe this promo that I watched just last night, and it just brought me back. I'm like, geez, I forgot how amazing it was. That was a great feud. It turned Undertaker babyface. Jake was a strong heel. Jake, left right after this to go to WCW for more money, and got, Bill Watts showed up, and he ended up screwed. Then he gained weight, and then it was pretty much curtains for him. But this was like the finest closing act on the classic Jake the Snake period that started in Georgia or so around 83 and then ended in about 10 years later. Jake the Snake is one of the greatest heels ever. It's a shame what's happened to him and that he can't be a bigger part of everything. I'm glad he's doing a little better now. But this angle blew me away. It still blows me away. And you show that to anybody and they'll say wrestling's fake, and they'll say, well, geez, that looks really, that's something.
Real. Well, that's because the Snake really bit into him, for heaven's sake.
The Snake was going at it, and kudos to Macho Man, such an artist for his craft. I mean, really.
Yeah, talk about suffering for your craft. Well, that is outstanding, and I'm glad you bring that up because that is one of the gems of all professional wrestling. But
yes,
my number one,
is
this moment right here. Let's go ahead and
guess it. Can't guess it.
Walking in the ring and lining each and every one of those stars up, every single one of them, so I can look right in their face and say, Goldberg, Booker T, and all the rest of them, to look them right in the face and say, you're fired.
Which he did.
And that's exactly what's going to happen, because WCW is going on the shelf. It's going nowhere. WCW is buried. WCW will remain buried. Just like anybody here in this arena or anyone in the world that gets in my way. Every single one of you, when you attempt to compete with me, and that includes my son Shane, and I'm not too proud to say it, every single one of you will be buried. Just like WCW is buried.
This might as well be a promo of the week.
Right. Promo of the week. Here it is.
It is.
Don't start with that. I deserve more respect than that.
I know it.
Damn it, I'm Vince McMahon. Damn it. I own WCW. I own the WWF. And you will treat me with respect.
So good.
Awesome.
Owning the mic.
I'll walk out of this arena. No chance. Oh my. Shane McMahon must be here in Cleveland because Mr. McMahon's ready for a fight with his own son. It's officially going to happen at WrestleMania.
That was a crazy night, huh?
Oh my God. I was recording both using two TVs. I have the VHS somewhere at home. It's so crazy. And the last Monday Nitro.
Sad ending too. Sad.
Just very sad. And you're right.
Nothing was ever the same again, was it?
Nope. And that's the reason why it's my number one. I mean, for wrestling fans, there are moments where you have to ask yourself, well,
what's up, Vince?
The nail in the coffin, as it were, in this promo.
Surprise, Dad. You're in Cleveland, Ohio. And I'm here in Panama City Beach, Florida. Standing in a WCW ring.
Standing in front of a smaller crowd than you.
Your ego has gotten the best of you. Your ego has gotten the best of you. I mean that you wanted to finalize this deal, WCW at WrestleMania. You wanted it. You have the audacity to ask Ted Turner himself to come down and finalize that deal. Well, Dad, that's just the opportunity that I was looking for. Because, Dad, the deal is finalized with WCW. And the name on the contract does say McMahon. However, the contract reads Shane McMahon.
Oh, my God! I don't believe it!
That's right. I now own WCW.
Wow.
So that takes us back, and there are moments in pop culture where you ask yourself, where were you when this went down? Historical moments in history. Where were you when man first stepped on the moon? Where were you when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded? Where were you when all this stuff went down? And I can tell you where I was that moment in time. I was watching Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro simultaneously from two different TVs, recording both. That's how much of a mark I was. And I was floored. For the first time ever, and for the probably last time ever, the shows were being simulcast on two very different networks, and it was one of the most historical moments, as it brought the end of the Monday Night Wars to a close and possibly kicked off what could have been the best wrestling angle of all time, and we know how that ended up. But having said that, that angle really was one of the unspoken angles of entire wrestling history, was the fact that there was a Monday Night War, and there was a ratings war going on, and they never necessarily acknowledged the war on TV. They've eluded hints and try to bury each other on the mic at various stages. But the fact of the matter is that the most significant wrestling angle that never was an angle is my number one angle.
Well, that's a tremendous choice. I didn't even think of that. It was such a surreal thing when it happened. WCW had been terrible for, I would say, approximately probably 2 years, really, where it started to really look. Definitely for a year and a half. Whenever Russo took over,
when they changed the logo,
changed,
and they decided to change the format or the look of the show, you knew that was the beginning of the end. They were trying to do everything in their power to make a change to spike viewers and ratings, and it was just a little too late, And
I knew they had a problem when they got Russo and Ferrara, and then it didn't work. So you could tell after about a month that it wasn't going to work. When they first came in, I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Let me see where they're going. And then by, I don't know, maybe Halloween Havoc, or definitely by Starrcade of 99, it was like, oh man, this sucks. This isn't going to be good. 2000 proceeded to be probably the worst year of any promotion I've ever seen.
It was bad.
Russo shaves Flair's head. Russo wins the belt. Bischoff pins Terry Funk to win the hardcore title. David Flair is almost in every segment You know, Tank Abbott's up for the title. Sid Vicious had multiple title runs. Just I think he had a match in a swimming pool or I did Viagra on a
There was all
pole.
kinds of there were so
Making
many
fun of
different
Ross's
things going
cerebral
on.
palsy. It's terrible.
Yeah, they had a bunch of stuff go down with you know, the superstars started not showing up for work.
Well,
You
that had
know,
happened a little bit before that too.
oh
But
yeah, but then
that
it,
was
it
their
really
problem.
got bad. It really did get bad because then you had injury upon injury
Yeah.
upon injury happen, and you know, Sid Vicious being one of those people that ended up
Ooh.
getting probably the most brutal injury. And we're gonna have to revisit that on something, one of the most
I don't know if I cannot rewatch that. So I want
it was rough. But I was gonna say the most brutal wrestling injuries caught on tape, but yeah, which would be an entirely different show.
That would be a number one.
Like John Cena's nose getting broke this past Monday. Wow, that was pretty brutal.
I'm proud we didn't talk about Raw, by the way.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, I'm glad. 48-hour long show, and we didn't talk about Raw. I love it.
Well, that was the number one for us. Any other?
I agree.
Any other comments?
Number one.
Any other comments from you, my friend?
That was the beginning of the end, because I just remember, I don't know if anybody remembers it like I do. They proceeded to have the best fucking WrestleMania anybody'd ever seen before or after. That was The Rock against Austin with the Austin turn. Kurt Angle against Nameless Murderer. Triple H against The Undertaker. I think the TLC match was on there. The second one, or third one, or fourth one, who knows. It was an incredible pay-per-view. And then the week after, it was just Raw on TV. And that was weird. It felt weird. And then they had a pay-per-view where they were going to get DX to reform. They couldn't do it. And what they did was the next pay-per-view is a tag match, Austin and Triple H against Undertaker and Kane, okay? And it was like, well, I'm not really interested in that match. And it's like, there's no ECW. There's no WCW. And that's when I started, watching Japan and things like that, and, they tried to pop up some independents. They had, that weird Rob Black promotion, XPW, and Combat Zone Wrestling, which is kind of a grosser version. Nothing was really catching on. Ring of Honor certainly eventually caught on. It took them a couple of years. But right when it happened, it was like, this feels different. This isn't as fun anymore, even though it was awful to see Vince Russo beating Booker T up with a baseball bat, which is so illogical to have happen in any way. At least something else was on, and it just changed everything. And their numbers, look at it really, if you really look at it, the minute WCW closed, their numbers started to tank. If you really look at it statistically, that moment they peaked down. And you could say, well, it's because Austin turned heel, which probably wasn't a great idea. Although I loved him as a heel, they just tanked down because wrestling wasn't what it was. That Zenith we talked about in 98, let's say it was May of 98 or August 98, whatever you want to say. It came crashing down in March of 2001. And that was the end. He injected the poison, as he said about a year later in an angle, and he really did. He's so scary and crazy, this guy. This is the thing about Vince. He's like, I'm going to inject some poison and bring in the NWO, and then it just tanked more. It's like he really did inject poison. It's like, who is this guy? It felt real, and that was so real. The idea that he was on both shows, it still blows my mind that he was on TNT. He's like, here I am. I fucking kicked you guys' ass. What do you think? What a shot! Don't box that guy into a corner. Nope. That was unreal. Yeah.
Yep.
Everything think about it, I was thinking, just unreal moment. Unreal. Surreal.
It was very surreal. And that's the angle. Now, here's the thing. I did have one more honorable mention that was also very real, and it's worth mentioning just as once again, just an honorable mention, was the whole Lita versus Matt Hardy versus Edge. That to me,
that was too personal for me personally. I didn't feel comfortable watching that, as strange as that sounds.
Well, and I can understand that, but I think one thing that has to be noted is that that's the first real angle that utilized any social media and internet in any way. and that was also very significant. But I think it's worth revisiting. That we've got a lot of stuff covered on this show, but that for us folks is the best wrestling angles of the modern era. Our top 5 and some honorable mentions in there as well.
And one more honorable mention, if you don't mind, Al. John.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't pick this one, but sometimes when you have so many different decisions that you can make, it's hard to really fit everything in.
Yes.
And sometimes you just think, well, let me go back as far as I can, or let me not go back far at all. Let me just do it for something from last year. But this is mine.
We're going to be hearing some comments from the mysterious Black Scorpion, the man, the World Heavyweight Champion Sting, has signed to defend his championship against live here on TBS on September 5th. Sting, do you know anything about this man? And if not, how are you preparing to wrestle him?
Well, I have no idea, Bob, who this guy is, the Black Scorpion. I have no clue. No one's saying anything to me. I've seen this little bit right now. I want to see a little bit more here in a few minutes, and I want to give everybody out there the opportunity to see the same thing that I'm going to see for the first time. He is an unknown. How do I prepare for something like that? Well, you just have to go for broke. If it's Ric Flair, if it's Arn Anderson.
It was Ric Flair.
It was Ric Flair.
But don't try to track me down. It won't help. Even if you saw my face in the light, you wouldn't recognize me.
That's not true.
My face doesn't look the same.
That's not true. That's not true.
Curious. I imagine you are. Of course.
This ran for like 6 months. It was the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yes, but the voice was so good. The voice was so good.
That's Ole Anderson.
I tell you, it could have. It sounded like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. It was so good.
Yeah, very scary. It ended up being one of their worst periods. They went off the rails, but that should have been when he bought them.
Well, yeah, right. That's definitely part of another series called The Worst Wrestling Angles of All Time. So I encourage everyone to once again like and subscribe our show, YouTube, Facebook. You can find us on Twitter, P Wrestling Cast. You can also download the show on Stitcher Radio. Just give us those thumbs up. Leave us those 5-star reviews on the iTunes page. Every little bit that you do when you subscribe, you like the show, you leave ratings, really help us move up in the ratings. And I believe we have a really great show, folks. So thank you so much for tuning in and subscribing to both our YouTube and our iTunes feeds. We really do appreciate it. Stephen, closing thoughts.
It was just really great reliving all this stuff. This is what, when I see something I don't like on TNA or WWE or whatever it is I'm watching and not liking at the moment, it really doesn't matter because there's such a wealth of wrestling history. And that's why the network really is one of the best things that's happened to wrestling in a very long time. Just to tie it back to 47 hours ago, the Investors Club, the network has all of these great moments on it, except for the Bill Watts one.
Yeah, right on. So thank you, Stephen, for that, and we do appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tuck your head. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.